moving on to the next speaker, and I have some notes here. I took a bunch of notes. I have like 6 pages, probably more, of all the speakers from this weekend. But I would say my next favorite session speaker was Jesse Itzler, who happens to be the husband of Sara Blakely. And she's the founder of Spanx, and they both did a phenomenal job. And she happens to be from not far from my neck of the woods. I'm from St. Petersburg, Florida, and she's from Clearwater. She went to FSU, I went to UCF, but I just thought that was cool to see a fellow Floridian. And so anyway, Jesse Itzler, he very unconventional story as well. I'm not going to dive too deep into it because it's very different, but what I can tell you is I liked him the most because he was very authentic and wasn't afraid to be himself either. And he has a very interesting personality. He is he's a marathon runner. He does like the 100-mile marathon runs, and I mean, the guy is like insane. So I can see why him and Grant probably get along together because they're just so different. There was a time when he had a Navy SEAL come live with him for about 30 days, and I was like, wow, he invited a Navy SEAL to come live with him? Why would he want to do that? He was so inspired by this Navy SEAL when he was at this, I want to say it was like a marathon or a non-profit 5K, something along those lines, but I think it was on like a mega level. It wasn't like a 5K. It was like another one of those 100-mile marathon things. And this guy was all by himself, and he was just running endlessly for hours by himself. He was just amazed by this guy's grit, his determination, his strong will, and he was like, man, like, I need to meet this guy, right? I mean, how does this guy do it? I mean, doing things that are almost humanly impossible. And so he eventually found out who this Navy SEAL guy was and invited him to come live with him for 30 days because he wanted to learn from him. He wanted him to teach him basically what he does, what are his habits, what is his lifestyle. He felt like, man, if I can even just teach this to my kids, if they can see what you do and see the hard work and just your determination and your tenacity, you know, he felt like, man, okay, I can definitely take my life to the next level just by being around this guy. So one, I was just already like shocked that he had a Navy SEAL live with him for 30 days. I mean, you don't hear about people inviting strangers to their homes for 30 days, let alone a Navy SEAL. So I thought that was interesting. And what he learned was, and what I learned, when the first day that the Navy SEAL stayed with them, they went to the gym, and he said that the Navy SEAL basically wanted to see what he was made of. He wanted to see how strong he was. So he had him do like push-ups or chin-ups or whatever, which are really hard. I can barely do one. And so he could do like 3. And so the Navy SEAL guy was like, okay, take a break, but do 4 more. And so Jesse's kind of like, 4 more? Like, I could barely do 3. Like, but okay, he gets up there and does 4 more, takes a break. Okay, I want you to do some more. Do them again. Do them again. Do them again. We're not leaving here until you do 1,000. 1,000. And so it was crazy because I already know what he was thinking. Like, dude, like, I'm not like you. I can't do no 1,000 push-ups, chin-ups, whatever. That's not happening. But lo and behold, he was able to do his 1,000. And what he learned was, and what the Navy SEAL taught him, and what eventually taught me, once your brain says you're done, you're really only at 40%. And I was like, wow, I believe that. That's so true. When your brain says you're tired, you're not all the way tired yet. You're getting there. You're getting there. But you can push through a few more minutes. You can push through a few more laps, right? And so the fact that you're only at 40%, not 90%, 40%, you're not even halfway done, and your brain is already saying, look, dude, you better stop. Your brain is a cop-out, basically. Your brain is also trying to protect you, doesn't want to harm you, is trying to warn you because you're about to do something you don't normally do and you don't need to be doing that. But at the same time, your brain doesn't want you to get hurt. Your brain doesn't want you to push yourself so much that you destroy yourself. I can respect that from the brain to a degree, for sure. I get that we have limits, right? But at the same time, our brain is almost sometimes the very thing that's holding us back, right? From enormous and massive success because it's afraid. The brain has so much fear, and that's where that comes from. A lot of times we hold our own selves back, not because of other people, but because we're just afraid. And we're afraid of being humiliated. We're afraid of getting hurt. We're afraid of looking stupid and being wrong. And for good reason, those are certainly not good feelings. But sometimes we have to take those risks. We have to take those chances, right? Because if we never do, we never become anything. And also, what if we don't get humiliated? What if we never get hurt, right? So our brain is making up these scenarios in our head to protect us and to stop us from doing what we were gonna do. Because one side of us is like, dude, I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna do X, Y, Z. I'm gonna run these 100 miles. But your brain is like, 100 miles? Are you kidding me? In one day? You can do that in a year, but not in one day. You know, your brain doesn't wanna do the work. So I was floored when I heard that, but I immediately believed it because I have seen this proven in my own life, because I have definitely been to the point where I was like, man, I'm tired. I don't want to do another phone call, but let me just do one more. When I was doing sales for our company in the very early stages, and I set really, really high limits and high bars for myself because I had a goal, but I knew I needed to drastically increase my numbers, meaning I needed to make much more phone calls than I was making before. So I was pushing myself to limits, to uncomfortable limits. And then when I finally hit the goal, my brain was like, okay, I'm done, finally. Like, okay, I'm gonna go eat. No, even though I did my goal, do one more, make one more phone call. And I remember my brain being like, dude, I did what you told me to do. I can't do one more. I don't want to do one more. But then the other side of me was like, you know what? Let me prove to myself I can do this. I can do one more phone call. And you know what was interesting? A lot of times when I made that extra phone call, or I stopped by this property that I had no intentions of stopping by, but it was on my route, and maybe sometimes you just notice things that you don't always see the first time, or maybe never noticed before. You're like, I didn't know there was a property back there this whole time. Let me go stop by there. And so I have found when I do moves like that, usually those are open doors. Those are opportunities. A lot of times that one last call, or that one more call that I would do, was actually a customer. They became a customer. They became someone who actually needed my service. And so I started making a habit out of that. I would give myself a goal. Let's just say I gotta call 25 properties today, right? Before I have to go do another job. And every time I would call my 25, but I would always call at least one more off the list. So really it was like 26. But I gotta tell you, every time I pushed, it always worked out for me. I always, almost freaking always, that person that I wasn't supposed to call being the freaking customer that I was looking for. So it's pretty epic, and I believed it right away because I have challenged that. When my body says no, you can actually keep going, right? Of course, we all have our limits. We all have our mental, physical, emotional limits, but we can really go much further than our brain wants us to go. So that was epic. I was floored, like I said, when I heard that, because it made me think, what else am I just not pushing hard enough on, that I could be seeing much more results from?